The boy never imagined that the person who would one day kill his mother and orchestrate all the tragedies of his life would turn out to be his most trusted teacher. After Satoru rescued everyone, he failed to escape his teacher's trap. He was sealed inside a car, and both he and the vehicle plunged into the river. At that desperate moment, Satoru shouted out something that caught his teacher's attention. He said he knew what Manabu's future would be. Those words intrigued Manabu. Curious about his own fate, he decided to pull Satoru from the water. But the price was heavy. Satoru slipped into a deep coma that lasted for years. After the accident, Satoru's mother, Sachiko, resigned from her job as a journalist. She began working part-time at a convenience store so she could spend more time taking care of her comatose son. 15 years passed before Satoru finally woke up. During that time, Sachiko had spent 4 hours a day caring for his body and later used muscle stimulators to keep his limbs from deteriorating. But the Satoru who opened his eyes was not the same as before. His memories were fragmented and incomplete. When he saw his own reflection in the mirror, he felt no surprise, as if the person staring back wasn't quite him. Even when he read familiar books, he couldn't remember when or how he had learned the words. The memories of his life before the tragedy were gone. Soon after, Carl and Hiromi came to visit. Carl had become a lawyer, determined to one day uncover the truth behind the case that destroyed so many lives. Hiromi, now a doctor, had devoted himself to helping victims like Satoru recover. Carl wanted to ask questions, but Sachiko had warned him that Satoru's memory was fragile, so the visit ended in polite small talk. Days later, during rehabilitation, Satoru saw a familiar face, Keo. He congratulated her warmly. She was now married to Hiromi. They chatted for a while, though Satoru couldn't recall what he had done for her years ago. Then a baby began to cry. As Satoru gently reached out and touched the infant, everything came rushing back. His memories flooded in, how he had once saved Keo, and how much he had sacrificed for others. Back in his hospital room, the doctor suggested doubling his rehab routine. During his stay, Satoru befriended a young girl with leukemia. Their cheerful conversations were secretly photographed by strangers who had been following Satoru ever since he woke up. But this time, someone intervened, Manabu. Satoru didn't seem to recognize him. Manabu, too, was different from the man Satoru once knew. He introduced himself as Satoru's homeroom teacher from 5th grade, removing his hat and glasses. 5 years earlier, Manabu had gotten married. His father-in-law had served as a city councilman for decades before passing away 3 years ago. Manabu had inherited his position and was now a council member himself. He met the young leukemia patient at a charity event, and through connections with the hospital's board, had arranged for her treatment there. In truth, Manabu had known about Satoru's awakening for some time, but this was the first time he had visited. He had always wanted to ask about that one sentence Satoru had shouted before falling into the river, but when he realized Satoru's memory wasn't whole, he held his tongue. Time passed again. The day before the leukemia girl's surgery, Satoru decided to visit her, but on his way, he ran into Manabu. The girl was already asleep, so the two decided to chat somewhere else. Worried about being photographed again, Manabu suggested they move to a quieter place. He pushed Satoru's wheelchair to the elevator, and at some point, silently slipped on a pair of black gloves. When they reached the rooftop, Satoru finally stopped pretending. He told Manabu that he remembered everything. Manabu stared at the faint web-like threads glinting above Satoru's head and began to speak of his own past. When Manabu was a child, some classmates gave him a few pet hamsters, but instead of caring for them, he dropped them into a bottle filled with water. 3 hours later, only one hamster was still alive, standing atop the floating bodies of the others. Manabu kept that survivor. That moment reminded him of a story he had once read, The Spider's Thread. In that tale, a sinner in hell had performed only one good deed in life, saving a spider. The spider extended a thread from heaven to help